So a common question that I see a lot of people ask criminal defense lawyers is, what happens if I get arrested on a Friday? And I get it, nobody wants to be sitting in jail for an entire weekend just because you were unlucky enough to get arrested on a Friday night. So what I'm going to do is provide you with 4 things that you'll need to know to better understand what would happen if you or a loved one were to get arrested on a Friday. Now, the first thing that you'll need to know is whether the courts are open over the weekend. I know that most courts are in operation from Monday through Friday. That's usually the case. But is the court open on Saturday, and for what purposes? There are some courts that are open for limited purposes on Saturdays. And usually that could be due to addressing things like bail if a person were to get arrested over the weekend. So for instance, magistrate judges, they're usually judges that handle specific areas of law or specific types of cases. And they're the kinds of judges that would typically handle something like setting bail in a particular case if a person were to get arrested. And so what you'll want to know is whether magistrate judges are working on Saturdays in your particular state or jurisdiction, and are they handling bail hearings? Are they setting your next court date and telling you when you're going to show up in court? Are they handling what is called arraignments, where they basically give you notice of what your allegations are, what your charges are, so that you know what you're formally being charged with in court? And then usually in that process, what will typically happen is that they'll either release you on your personal promise to show up in court, or they may set bail, or they may hold you during the pendency of your case. So it's really important to understand the dynamic of how bail hearings are conducted in your state and jurisdiction, and if that happens on Saturday. So if your state or jurisdiction has bail hearings and has magistrate judges or judges that are handling bail hearings working on Saturday, you have a better chance of your case being heard and potentially being released instead of sitting in jail until Monday. And if your state or jurisdiction does not have bail hearings on Saturday, then is there any other process that would allow you to be released before that, or would you have to actually sit in jail and wait for a judge to show up on Monday morning? So it's really important to understand if the courts are open over the weekend and to what extent. So the second thing that you're going to want to know when better understanding what happens if you were to get arrested on a Friday is how long it takes for you to get processed by the police. Usually when you're arrested for a crime, you usually have to go to the police station, they'll book you, they'll process you, which usually consists of you getting a mugshot and a fingerprint. How long does that process take? Understand that over the weekend, there are a lot of people who are getting arrested. So if you were involved in a bar fight and there were 10 other people involved in that same bar fight and everybody gets arrested, how long will it take for the police to book and process everyone? And would they be able to get everybody to the courthouse in time for a judge to hear the case and decide if they're going to set bail in your matter or not? So that booking time can affect the time frame it takes for the police to transport you to a courthouse or transport you to where a judge may be located, for that judge to decide whether or not you'll be held while your case is pending or released while your case is pending. And then of course, if you're in a state where they set bail, what your bail would be. The third thing that you're going to want to understand is how serious the charges are. So there are usually 2 major levels of charges. There are misdemeanors and there are felonies. Misdemeanors are low-level charges. Felonies are a little bit more serious. And so depending on the seriousness of your charges, that would determine what happens in your case. So if your charges are a little bit more serious, then there's a lot more that goes into the process of investigating to determine if you'll be arrested. Are you in police custody during the time frame that the police are investigating a particular allegation? So for instance, if it's a very serious shooting, they find you in the area where the shooting occurred. Usually what a police officer may do is detain everybody in that area. How long would everybody be detained before they decide if somebody's going to be fully arrested and charged, right? So that whole entire time where a police officer may be investigating a crime to determine whether you'll be charged is really important in figuring out if you'll ever get to court in time to be seen by a judge before the weekend is over, or if you'll have to sit in jail and wait until you can get a court hearing on Monday or the next available business day. So the seriousness of the charges, that is really, really important in understanding the effect of your processing time, for one, and then also understanding the effect of whether a judge would even want to release you, right? If the charge is too serious, then it's likely that even if you were to see a judge, the judge may want to hold you a little bit because they may think that you're a flight risk, or they may think that you are a danger to the community. And so all of those things weigh into whether or not you're safe sitting in jail for a little bit longer, or you're released while your case is pending. Then the fourth thing that you're going to want to know when better understanding what were to happen if you were to get arrested on a Friday is whether that city or that jurisdiction allows for citations. Now, a citation is essentially a process where they kind of give you a paper, you sign it, but it's almost like it's essentially a notice for you to show up in court. And so oftentimes, let's say a police officer gives you a citation, that's usually going to be for a low level offense. Let's say you're, drinking in public, or public drunkenness, or maybe some type of disorderly conduct where you're yelling obscenities to someone, or something that's minor. It doesn't fully require you to actually go in front of a judge to be released. You may get a citation in that particular instance, and the citation will basically be a notice to show up in court. Now, if you don't show up in court, that's when you can have a warrant issued for your arrest. So oftentimes I do see situations where very low level cases, for those individuals, they'll get a citation to show up in court, and you don't have to worry about going in front of a judge and determining any type of bail or release conditions. So those are the major things that you're going to want to consider when understanding what could happen to you if you were to get arrested on a Friday. But if I were to give any type of advice here, getting arrested over the weekend is not where you want to be. And so if you're out and about, you're hanging out with friends, make sure that the decisions that you make don't lead you to a potential arrest, right? Because sitting in jail over the weekend is just a horrible place to be, and just a horrible way to spend your time. So if you have any other questions or concerns, feel free to comment them below, and I'd be happy to answer them for you. As always, stay safe and take care.